our webinar on the new Reaxys. I'm your host for today, Kim Gordon, and I'm here with presenter Derek Umali. Derek has been with Elsevier for 15 years, supporting many databases and applications. He actually started in the early 2000s supporting chem informatics and chemical drawing applications. He also participated in the beta group that prototyped the very first Reaxys. A few things you'll need to know. During this webinar, all lines are automatically muted. We are recording this webinar. If you have any questions, you can send them using the Ask a Question feature on your webinar control panel. And if we have time, we'll answer questions at the end of the session. Otherwise, we'll answer them in email. We will send a link to the recording by tomorrow. And Derek, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kim. Hello, folks. Appreciate you joining this webinar. And really, what we wanted to talk about was the new Reaxys 2016, and give an introduction. Released this last week. And as Kim mentioned, I've been on a few of these transitions or rollouts or migrations when we started with Crossfire to Reaxys, and then there was a Reaxys 2.0 to content expansion. So I'm very familiar with what a customer has to go through when you're switching from one application to the next. So really, if there's questions around that, so I know some folks are probably using the old Reaxys and has questions on what are the support materials that we have out there for customers migrating to this new Reaxys, and what are some recommendations. Please do send those along, and we will answer them, and then more importantly, get you connected with your customer consultant in your North American life sciences or wherever you're based out of, and really work on a plan to get you migrated from the older version of Reaxys to what is going to be the future of Reaxys. So again, as Kim highlighted, really the questions, for sake of time, we're going to condense this introduction to about 30 minutes just to respect your time, and really what I want to show you is how to get onto the system, some navigation, and you're going to appreciate that this is going to be a much easier, much user-friendly system for you to tackle your chemistry questions. So again, for the sake of time, please do submit your questions via the Q&A. You'll see that in your GoToWebinar panel. Submit it there, and then we'll consolidate those questions, answer them, and then send those answers via email. So again. So a slide on the history of Reaxys and its development, and some milestones along the way, including really the data or the content of Reaxys goes really a far ways back. So let me progress the slide through so that we can see sort of what the history of Reaxys and what we're sort of basing the development of Reaxys on. The content goes a far ways back from the first edition of the Gamaliel Handbook, the excerpted data from important inorganic, organometallic type information, to the first edition of the Beilstein handbooks, right? So some chemists were familiar with having to go to the library and seeing these walls and stacks of the Beilstein handbooks, and having to actually know how to read in German to translate what was in that Beilstein handbook. So some of the things in there. In 1987-88, the release of Sandra, sort of getting that information, really customers, the large pharma biotech companies were creating these large chemical registration systems, really how to get their compounds into a database and be able to search it in ways that chemists were familiar with, really just drawing and being able to register these compounds. And from there, we developed the Beilstein and Gamaliel database. Those go online, are available on SDN and Dialog. Through MDL, a company that Elsevier acquired in the early 90s, we launched Crossfire. And then The printing of Gmelin and the Beilstein handbooks are discontinued, so basically the data from what would be in Gmelin are included in Crossfire Beilstein and what's in Reaxys. 2005, the patent chemistry database is launched. That's where we start including experimental procedures into the database, really the recipe, if you want to say, to how a compound is made, is started included, and a lot of chemists appreciate that. 2007, we start prototyping Reaxys, and then in 2009 launch that. Reaxys matures. 2013, we have a project to expand the content, and really this expansion of content is where a lot of what you're going to see and develop, and why we're releasing a new Reaxys, right? Reaxys works great now. A lot of chemists appreciate it, but the product team was tasked really to help answer this question. So this next slide, finding that chemistry answers in literature. 1970, less than 200,000 articles a year are published with chemistry and chemistry-related information. Contrast that to today, 2014, using Scopus, close to 1,200,000 articles are released. So a chemist has to tackle this information overload. What are the right articles I need to look at? I only have so much time to read a certain amount of articles. What are the ones that I need to really review? What are the ones I need to subscribe to? Also, in addition, these articles, how, from a Reaxys standpoint and an Elsevier standpoint, what do we need to extract from what kind of information, what kind of information do we need to extract, excerpt to make it useful for the chemist? How do we consolidate that? So you'll see that Reaxys has the Reaxys MedChem for bioactivity information, a lot of experimental properties that are coming from these articles and patents, really pulled from there. And again, expanding the content. In 2015, excerption, so some keywords here, excerption from 400 plus journals. This is a very human, labor-intensive task, right? We're reading the article from 400 key journals and excerpting the reaction conditions, the experimental details. And then 2016 actually is previous to this, probably around 2013, where we expanded the content. We added close to 16,000 journals, and really had a project to create what's called a Reaxys tree, really to help with the extraction. So computer-aided ability to extract structures, keywords, and concepts, put the intelligence behind this content so that chemists, folks interested in the chemistry of an article, can find the papers of relevance for them. And also the expansion of patents. What we found, what was good enough in the past, Reaxys targeted the US European Patent World Office, and most of the structures were included in this, right? So if the thinking being in the past that if you wanted to patent a structure, you were going to patent it in the US European Patent and World, the WO patent offices. But that's not the case anymore, right? Structures, the chemistry information, a lot of information is coming from the Asia patents, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Taiwanese patents. So with that, 2015 and onwards, we're collecting this information from the Asia patents and including them in Reaxys. So with that expanded content, our product team had the task at hand, right? We catered to an advanced audience, right? They could do the reaction searching through usability testing, through usage analysis. We found that the advanced users loved Reaxys, can use it. The task was really, how can we find ways that we can find audience to use that data, that content that we are putting in there into Reaxys? How can we expose that to the general user so that they know that the content's in there and they're coming back to it? We also did, again, usability studies. Chemists don't necessarily start by creating a structure or reaction drawing when they're looking for information. A lot of it is based on literature searching. So really, how do we make literature searching more sort of that Google type searching, right, for chemists? So we present the options. If you're familiar with Reaxys in the past, we had the Ask Reaxys, really some of the relevant information that a chemist would formulate in a search query, how can we translate that into a query to deliver the results that they're looking for? So that's what the impetus for creating this new user interface to help expose that content and really get folks to see the content expansion, and from there see the chemistry related information. So coming on to Reaxys 2016, what's new? We've updated the landing page. You'll see the quick search query builder history. Really the UI is vastly different. So please, again, do talk to your customer consultants, suggestions on migrating. We will be moving from the Reaxys to this new Reaxys, and then the target date to sort of move everyone is in 2017, the later part of 2017. So folks will be moving to this. Supporting two systems is very ineffective from a support standpoint, development standpoint. So really the fact that the landing page, this new paradigm, really being able to create these combination queries, this literature searching. Marvin, Java structure editor. We've chosen one drawing tool. If you're familiar with the old Reaxys, there were quite a number of drawing tools that you can choose. We've chose to standardize on Marvin Java JS. Really what we found through speaking with Google or just knowing what they're going through, Firefox, non-Java supported applications are Java supported applications are being dropped. So really having to make the interface drawing editors Java free was the main one. A main thing here, if you were to do structure searches in Reaxys versus the new Reaxys, exact, it's drawn exact. So it's actually easier to show this. So I'm going to pop on over real quick to the old Reaxys. So what we're saying here, hopefully this reloads. I have this up. Let me go ahead and go into the substance search. So what we're saying in the old Reaxys, right, you can see here it was confusing to folks when you had to make a selection to exclude. So when you did the search, we included the salts, the mixtures, the isotopes, and then to get those out of your search, you actually had to select the item in your structure search. So in the new Reaxys, it's quite a bit different. If you want to include the salts, include the mixtures, the isotopes, you have to select it. So again, that's what that exact match search, what's happening in the new Reaxys, is really detailing, is the sort of the change in paradigm where we chose to include the salts, the mixtures in the old Reaxys versus in the new one, you have to actually make the choice. And it's evident, so that should be there. We've updated a results preview, giving you a chance to look at that. And then really a filter and analysis, really with this literature searching, really trying to expose that and giving folks a quick way to do that, starting your search broadly and then finding the relevant answers using these index terms to find those articles of choice. So that's the content, the history of Reaxys, why we chose to do this new interface, really a chance to then point you to sort of the navigation around this. So some quick examples. We're going to do this in the actual application itself. Again, we're going to start with searching the literature, finding these documents, finding documents discussing fluorescence sensors, finding documents discussing the total synthesis of Taxol. And if we have time, we'll show you some drawing techniques that help you find substituted sulfopoumarins here. And then maybe building some synthesis plans. So those are examples really to give you some navigation touch points as you start exploring Reaxys and picking it up in this latter part of 2016, and then eventually in 2017, I'm sure as new projects start up and you're doing some literature concept searching, this new Reaxys is going to be on your sort of brain, and you're going to want to reach out to it. So let's go ahead and jump into the Reaxys. You come into the quick search. I've logged in. So I've got a profile. If you've got a Science Direct profile, if you've got a Scopus profile, an Elsevier profile, you can use that to log into your system. It'll recognize you. It is a new URL, so your librarian or your key contact for Reaxys should have gotten a lot of emails and then forwarded this information to you, so you would then bookmark that. So it is new Reaxys. If you are in the new Reaxys and you see that only as your sort of search interface, down below you can click on the Reaxys to go back to the old interface. So again, this is going to be available throughout much of 2017. So if you are hesitant to make the switch, it's going to be available for you. You've got some task critical things and you're more familiar with that. So we do appreciate that, and giving folks ample time to be able to switch. So let's go ahead and do this quick search. Things that you might want to see as you're going through a new interface is going to the help file, going into the workflows here, clicking on that help file, see the onboarding, the training. I've clicked on the workflow, so the one I'm going to do is a search for literature and search for substances. You click on those, and in this case, we are going to do our example here as we float up. Literature searching. Reaxys is one of the largest document repositories for chemical information. And in this example, we're going to find documents discussing fluorescent sensors. Fluorescent molecular sensors can be applied in many disciplines, medical diagnostics. So if we're looking for that as a constant search, supramolecular chemistry and fluorescent searching, let me just go ahead and copy that from this workflow and really discuss how you start navigating Reaxys to find topics, chemistry around this, reactions, maybe around this topic if that's what you are so interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste, search Reaxys, again making literature searching easier for the chemist and really presenting them with ways to get around it. You're presented here, in this case, with our results preview, right? It analyzes, Reaxys analyzes that query and returns 3 result sets in the results preview. The first set is a result query that considers all the query items, right? Supramolecular chemistry, fluorescent, really combining them, and if this best fits your needs. And then it also presents some other result sets that, without you reformulating that query, maybe you're just fluorescent sensing, maybe that's the one you want to look at, or supramolecular chemistry. So you get an idea of these 2 different concepts here. You can preview the results. I clicked on the preview results. And the one thing that we touched on with Reaxys was the indexing, right? Reaxys is a unique database in that it has 6 different thesauri included in there. And that really is there to help branch out, find as many results as you can, and really to help you fine-tune your result set. So I clicked on the preview results. I'm going to click on the abstract here. You can see the highlighting. I'm going to de-expose the abstract index terms. So this is really a thing that I want to point out and stress, and how Reaxys helps you in here. You've got your index terms, right? Emtree is part of Embase. It's a biomedical journal. Compendex is an engineering database, and those thesauri are included in the Reaxys. So when somebody is looking in Reaxys from a biomedical standpoint, they're touching on the Emtree. And if they're a chemical engineer, they're touching on the engineering aspect. So this paper, you have the context of why this might be important to you in the different fields. So if you're a large organization and you're supporting, an academic institution that has different disciplines, or you're a large corporation that, is a medical diagnostics company that has to support the biomedical researchers and the engineers, Reaxys does help you in that finding the information, helping you index it from a biomedical or an engineering standpoint by these index terms, and then exposing those index terms allows you to fine-tune your search. Maybe in this case you really wanted, instead of fluorescent sensing, you see that the papers would be fluorescent sensors, and then you would reconfigure your query using fluorescent sensors or fluorocolorimetric sensing as maybe another topic. So that's the index terms, and then from this paper you can see the substances and reactions, really what Reaxys is known for outside of that literature searching. If I wanted to expose the substances or the reactions that are in this paper, I can definitely do so. Or if I just wanted to go ahead and click on the full text, I can do that. And this is just from the preview results. Let's go ahead, go click on the view results, the 89 there. I clicked on there. And what we want to show you from left to right are the filter and analysis panel. I'm going to go ahead and collapse these index terms. We're going to look at the publication year. Here we see, hey, a lot of our papers were done from 2014, 2016. Is our research increasing on this particular search topic, right? Fluorosensing, supramolecular chemistry, is research in increasing in that topic. What we wanted to find in our initial was to find the review articles. So from our 87 documents, I'm going to go ahead and click the review articles and then click apply. So from the 87 documents, and you'll see here 87, if I wanted to go back and redo the filter, I can click on the 87 there, and, or see the 6 that are just related to review articles here. And then here I want to point out which articles have been cited the most, so you see that information, right? And one that stands out is this paper that's been cited 883 times. That might be one that you'd be interested in. You can click on that and see the Scopus information, right? So if I clicked on that, and if your institution, your site has a subscription to Scopus, it'll bring it up in Scopus, really providing more value for your Elsevier subscriptions there, and then really working at it from a Scopus is a great abstract and citation database, right? Who are the authors who are publishing in this field, whereas Reaxys is an abstract, full text, excerpted information index database. So you'll see the citing information there, really cleaned up view. So that's one type of literature searching. Let's go ahead and, for the sake of time here, let's look at the other type of search here in this literature workflow that we wanted to explore, the total synthesis of Taxol, right? We want to find, in this case, our example, I'm going to go ahead and copy this for sake of spelling. We want to find the reaction records. We're just going to try and illustrate the sort of what is known about total synthesis of Taxol, who worked on it, and when, right? So, when did the most of the research occur on the total synthesis of Taxol? The basic question we're trying to answer here. Let me go ahead and go back to Reaxys. We're going to unselect that to clear that out. I'm going to paste what I copied, the total synthesis of Taxol. So the thing about putting this in that search Reaxys will evaluate this sentence, right? It knows synthesis means you're looking for reactions. Taxol means you're looking for preps of this particular compound. So you don't necessarily need to create the structure or reaction drawing by clicking in here. But you can if you wanted to. Again, you can put in property terms and then create structures and do that combination search that I alluded to earlier in the presentation. I clicked on search. Now we're presented with the results preview of the total synthesis of Taxol, right? We have 322 reactions, and we can preview the results of this from a reaction standpoint. And then you can see here as we're floating, you can see the compound availability information for that compound there. You can go ahead and take that compound and expand it if you wanted to look at it. And then floating over a window brings up the options. If I wanted to synthesize that, bring that to the synthesis planner, I can definitely do that. Or I can see my options and then transfer this query to the query editor, not having to draw it. So some quick examples of the reactions in here. Also the experimental procedures, right? The step-by-step of how this reaction took place. A lot of things that chemists appreciate, and this one's coming from the Florida State University patent there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the arrows to come down to the documents. We wanted to look at the documents. We wanted to see who's publishing in this area and when, right? So from this standpoint, the total synthesis of Taxol from a document standpoint, and then some other sort of preview on those items. I'm going to go ahead and click on the results, view those results. We're going to look at the filter analysis, right? Trying to answer, again, the question of who's publishing in this area, when did they normally publish in there. But if you're looking from these 2,805 documents and wanted to get over 15,000 compounds that are included in the document, there's a hyperlink to that, or even the 5,000 reactions that are in these 2,800 documents, a hyperlink to that information as well. See some index terms. So out of these 2,800 documents, 441 discuss Taxol as an anti-neoplastic agent, right, the anti-cancer drug. 107 talk about it as in a drug efficacy parameter. So really a frequency basis of what is indexed in these documents the most. And if you wanted to see sort of the all the index terms, you can definitely do that, and then look at this 21-page view of that. What we wanted to see were the authors. So let me slide down, document type, authors. We look at the authors, 34 Crotow, Rodney Crotow, Nicolau. Here has published 25 times. We're going to go on the total synthesis out of our 2,800 documents. We're going to apply, that's Nicolau as an author, those 25 documents. And then, from here we can see that he did most of his publication, his work, between 1993 and 1998. And from there we can select these various documents, select them all, and then export to a PDF, an Excel file, various reference managers if you were so inclined, or if you were just looking at this from a standpoint of the total synthesis of Taxol, and then wanted to see sort of the reactions and things like that. You can select one of these items and export. That's a great way to get your information. This is a PDF, but a lot of different formats, right? Microsoft Word, the literature management systems, an electronic lab notebook. We can take that to a PDF. We've got one selected and some options, and then click export. When I click on export, you'll see in the background the export runs, and you'll see that there, and you can go ahead and download that particular total synthesis of Taxol here. And as it's downloading, we'll see the paper. I already pre-formatted this, which was nice. I did this like a cook, and you can see the actual report that might be generated for this. I think this is the same one, total synthesis of Taxol. So these are the kinds of reports you can take out of Reaxys. So with that was a total synthesis of Taxol. The other thing I do want to point out, right, if you do see errors, there's feedback mechanisms. When I do go out to various sites, right, they always mention, hey, there's some errors in some of these records, or we wanted to provide feedback, right? So I've looked at this total synthesis, and I see something drawn incorrectly. This feedback mechanism, and especially as we're rolling out the new Reaxys, is a great way to communicate with the product team, the support team, right? From this page, I can click on the feedback button, and then if I see something wrong with this reaction, teachable moment here, I click on this feedback, specific feedback, and I can click on the part of the page, right? So maybe it's this reaction that I'm concerned with, or the whole page, right? And then I select them, it's neutral, and then I can say, hey, you know what, there's suggestion, right? This page needs to be reformatted, and things like that. So really within your search, within the system, please do communicate with us via the feedback. That would be a great way to research or tell us how we're progressing, or if you see any information that's incorrect. So let me go back to our PowerPoint. Based on time, now that I know this, I wasn't able to do the finding substituted sulfocoumarins, but you can find that, and then that's a great way to get started on the system, right? Go to the help, the workflows, click on the substances, and then you'll download this example. And this is a great 8-page example, really walking you through the drawing tool and how to maximize that drawing tool. Really, that's the hard part, training aspect that needs to happen with the new Reaxys. As we go from different drawing tools and standardizing on Marvin.js, it's really sort of a time commitment that we're asking users to sit down and learn a drawing tool. You can still also copy and paste. I forgot to show that. That's one thing I did want to show. I'm going to bring up ChemDraw Professional. So if you are interested in copying and pasting, this is a good example of that. Let me bring up an aromatics template here. So maybe we're just interested in drawing this here. copy and paste. So that's one way to get information from Reaxys if you are looking at a search, right, and you don't want to draw. We have to mention this. You have this drawing tool. You can come into ChemDraw, select a compound here. Oops. All. There, what you need to do is copy as, not copy. It's going to be copy as, and mole text is a good one. So copy as mole text, bring us back into the Reaxys, and Control V there. We'll normally do this. I'll have to look on why my Control V is not working here. There it goes. So Control V, it'll take that compound from your ChemDraw. So really, you know, if 99% of the chemists are using ChemDraw, really just go into ChemDraw and just get familiar with drawing your compound, and then just copy as, and then you can go ahead and copy as straight into the Reaxys structure editor, and then that can transfer your query straight to Reaxys. So really not changing the drawing tool. We provide a mechanism for you to copy that structure right into Reaxys. And then again, the fact that I suggest to learn the drawing tool, download this workflow, this Reaxys substance. And for the 30 minutes that we've allocated, really coming to the end of our presentation here, really what we're hoping as we're searching, you're searching your various different applications for chemistry information. You know, you have to search that chemistry information, that chemistry overload. You have to get the article. You have to read it. You have to compare it, and you get the answer. With Reaxys, we hope that is a lot faster, especially with the literature searching and the indexing and the excerpted information that we provide. Really, we're hoping that with Reaxys, you're getting your answers much faster. So that brings us to our 30-minute window. If you do need help, again, pointing you to the Reaxys Support Center. And if you've got questions, please do provide that via the Q&A. We'll consolidate those. And then I thank you for your time, your 30 minutes today, and to look at the new Reaxys and enjoy your chemistry searching. We look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you, Derek. And we'll send the recording out by this time tomorrow for everyone. And if you have any questions, we'll send them out via email.
We can hang out in this forum just to give folks about 5 minutes to enter in their questions via the chat. Kim, what do you think? Are there a lot of questions?
We've got a couple.
Okay, great.
I often use the Reaxys API. Does new Reaxys use the same API, or will I need to learn the functionality again?
Well, we'll tackle that. It'll be, we'll get that from our product team. I would assume that the API is separated from the interface. So my initial answer would be no. You know, the API is its own separate entity. And you might need to. The content is the content sources, so the API is hooking up to the content. It really shouldn't affect what you're doing there, but we'll get clarification on that question. But yeah, so we'll get some more questions and we'll answer them if there's a lot more. So thanks, Kim.
Okay. We don't have any more questions right now. Do you want to give people a few more minutes?
Yeah, I'll give them a couple minutes. If you want to type some questions on what you saw there, please do. And then if not, thank you for your time. People are dropping off.
Here's a question. Is the new Reaxys ready for testing by us?
Is the new Reaxys ready for testing? Is it? Yes, it's released. It's out there. So the URL should be supplied. Please get in touch with your sort of Reaxys key contact at your site. But your customer consultants, your account managers should know it as the URL right there, that new Reaxys, new.reaxys.com. If your institution subscribes to Reaxys, you'll be able to access this new Reaxys for your literature searching. Would be a great place to start. I know as folks are maybe migrating. So, if you're new to Reaxys, I suggest that you start with the new Reaxys. If you've never used Reaxys and your company has decided to purchase it, new Reaxys would be a great place to start your Reaxys experience.
Okay, here's a good question. Would you please display the link to the help documentation again?
The link to the help documentation is just a question mark there, and it'll bring you to the support center, and it'll bring you to the nice new help that we've got out there. And the quick start guide is a great place to start, obviously.
Yeah. What are the browser requirements? You might have to look for that in the quick start guide.
Yeah, it's in here, and let me bring this up. What are the technical requirements for Reaxys? It's in our FAQ. Any modern browser, it's great to Firefox. So here it is, the basic technical requirements. Java free application. Interesting why we don't even include Internet Explorer. And what I am interested in playing with is how does this work on a tablet? So you can see what we're sort of gearing towards to what Elsevier Reaxys is. We know different paradigms, different user interfaces, lots of folks accessing information via tablets. So I'm really trying to make that easier for folks.
Good. We're getting some questions that are coming in. Is there still an advanced search option with similar queries?
Yeah, that's a more, so a couple of things, right, I alluded to, and you might be one of those, when we looked at the old Reaxys, and you might be one of those folks, right, when we did the usability studies, it was really small when folks would come into this add and remove fields and look at the advanced field options and add to them, right? And even if I come here to the start over in old Reaxys, you'll see this advanced query builder here. So what we tried to do was simplify this, right? Really, you had to understand what was going on here, and then the field codes, right? So field codes here, field codes that you would need to add to your query and understand what was going on, and then the result set. So it's in a roundabout way. You can see here the query or the field really not having to go into that complicated, and then doing the structure. We tried to simplify that. So to answer your question, yes, the advanced or this combination structure is available. We're trying really hard to simplify that so folks don't have to learn a complicated advanced feature here and then have to know, what these codes are and then put them in there and then really test these queries out. And from the usability, not many folks, studies that we looked at, not many folks were in this field. So what we found is not many people were clicking on that advanced and using this functionality. So yes, it'll be available, simple.
Okay.
Much simpler.
Okay. I think we can probably answer the rest of them
via online. Yeah.
And we'll send the recording out and send the answers to your questions that you had out. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And thank you, Derek, for an awesome webinar.
Thanks. Thank you, folks.
Bye-bye.